I kind of did some like hit or miss stuff. And one night, I was, and I don't have a lot of experience with like
girls.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great blanket statement there.
Hey, I'm Allison.
And I'm Cassie.
And this is what happens when
you have two moms, microphones,
no filter,
zero impulse control, and cocktails. Welcome to Undiagnosed Moms.
Welcome back to Undiagnosed Moms with Cassie and Allison. Clearly, Cassie is not here, so we're just going to start without her, and she is going to just join later. So we are joined by a very special guest today. He likes me now. Back in the day, not so much. My brother, who we found out has ADHD.
Asperger's,
and amongst other things.
Yeah,
what?
Asperger's, actually.
Yeah. So
ADHD is just a given.
Do what?
ADHD is just a given. Like,
That's
everybody has it.
Yeah, I saw a thing the other day, and it was like, you should check to see if you have autism, if you have ADHD. And I was like, crap, I got that too?
Have you ever met anyone who's like, no, I don't have ADD? I'm pretty sure I've not met.
I don't think Dad did.
Yeah.
I don't think Dad had it.
Really?
No.
Have you ever seen him at work, like bouncing back and forth between things? I don't know.
I think he just enjoyed it. Like,
you can enjoy a disability. I mean, having Asperger's has its bonuses.
Oh, I mean, I get things done real quick if I'm able to. Okay, but so tell everybody a little bit about yourself. What's your name? What do you do? All the things.
Sure. I am Chris Horn. I am the brother of Alison. I am 44, live in Atlanta, and I was diagnosed with Asperger's at 40, even though everyone knew something was wrong with me by the time I was 9. I am an IT person, obviously. Yeah. No. I found comfort in being around weirdos, and so that's literally kind of how I spent my life. I went to Christian school, graduated from Christian school, and then was thrown directly into the real world, which was fun. When everyone is a certain way, everything is very Jesus focused, and then when you get into the real world, they're like, wait, you don't drink? And I'm like, bitch, I'm 18, like that's kind of, so there was a learning curve there that was really quick. I either, when I first started working, I was 10 years younger than the next oldest person in the company. And so I just kind of had to forcefully, emotionally mature. It's really hard to say. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the beginning of me. So,
okay.
Yeah.
How, what made you realize that maybe you were different? Was there anything like in your childhood that was like, that was weird?
Yeah. Well, I mean, then, no. Now looking back, yeah, man. Like there were.
So then did you think like you just didn't fit in?
Yeah. I mean, you got to remember that back in my day, if you were autistic, you were drooling on yourself.
Right.
Okay. You were
there was no in between.
No, you were either autistic and were, on the not so long bus, or, you just need to figure your stuff out.
You were being lazy,
right.
Or you just weren't able to control yourself or whatever.
You just suck. Right. Like that was the 90s way. It just like stop sucking and
be normal.
Be normal. Right.
Okay,
yeah. Like they just want to beat normal into you. And, so, when I was 12, I started learning how to program and, with
Cassie's here.
All right.
Here.
Hello, Cassie.
Oh,
hey.
Just audio though.
I sound like a man.
No,
you don't.
No. You just maybe lay off the cigarettes a little bit, but other than that, you're good. Like a 60-year-old smoker over here.
You just seem like a disembodied voice, though.
I'm so glad I'm back. To the podcast.
Yeah, you're here.
Okay.
Oh,
Welcome
back.
Smoking a couple packs of cigarettes.
Gotta get my Marlboros out.
We were trying a new fest. All right, so Cassie, this is Chris, Cassie, who's just a dark blob here.
Yes,
but
hello, C.
Just to see.
You are a C.
Yes. So what did I walk in on?
He was telling about how we knew that he was special.
What? Oh, right, special.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So,
like, I know one of the big issues was like, and I say this too because I don't feel like Dad had ADHD or anything, because he just didn't understand you. Like, you were so with computers and coding, and his brain was not.
Sports, right?
Yes.
So he was very much into sports. So when he realized that every time I would go to a golf course that he would have to yell 4, he realized pretty quickly that we're not going to connect as well. It was very, he'd be like, hey, let's go. We're going to, and he'd buy me golf clubs, and he was so excited and so disappointed, and it was brutal. One, I'm lazy. I don't like to walk a lot. That's a lot of walking. Okay. And two,
he never would get a golf cart.
Yeah.
He wouldn't get a golf
Thank you. And it was always 137 degrees outside. Right. And I'm like, I got sweat dripping off my nose. I'm lasering somehow. Like, the ball's supposed to go this way. It's going that way. And I swear to God, he's like, 4. Like, okay, every time. So we realized if we're going to connect, it's not going to be over golf. Right. And then, but we just, he really liked sports. And I'm really grateful that he did, because that's what you were into, and, dad, daughter kind of thing. Like, that's really important. But, I was kind of just like, all right, he's going to do his thing. And, like I said, at 12 years old, I started learning how to write code, which by copying we had these thing called books back in the day. You would read. It was a really slow process. Yeah, really slow process. So I would spend hours just learning how this stuff worked, because it made sense to me. Right. Where other things like, when growing up, we went to church a lot, and they would just, they would dump me into one of these classrooms, where there's a bunch of kids running around, and I would always gravitate towards the piano. Like, I not the kids. And, they would say things to Mom like, I think he's special. And I'm like, just because I like playing on the piano doesn't necessarily, but
I'm a regular boy.
Yeah.
I'm a real boy.
Yeah, I'm a real boy. Yeah, it was rough. And so, like, every interaction was complicated, right? People are like, oh, were you anxious? It's not really anxiety. It was confusion. It's like hearing a joke and not understanding the punchline. Everyone around you's laughing. They're all having a great time. They think it's hilarious. And you're like, yeah, I don't get it. That's how it felt. It wasn't, you're just like,
and that's so hard, especially at 12, when you're already starting to like mature into adulthood, or attempting to.
Right.
And then you all don't understand anything going on around you, or why you don't understand what's going on, because you're incredibly smart. Why can't I figure this out?
Right. And that was things that I would say to myself. It's like, you're smarter. That you should be able to figure out something as basic as what everybody else can. Right. And then you start into, like, in my, when I'm like 13, 14, 15, if you take the already difficulty with interacting with people, now I've got other hormones going on, right? That's like, hey man, get your shit together. We got things to do. And I'm like, I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure this out. Right.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you add that component to it, it's overwhelming. Like, dating in my teens was actually, I did really well with aggressive girls, because I didn't like, they would basically get bored to the point like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to do this. Right. And
that's because you were an asshole.
Okay, that may or may not be true.
I'm 100% it's true.
Okay.
I will never forget you coming into my room one day and you had a book and you were like, I've been reading this book. And I was like, not me, bitch. I don't read. And you were like, and I was like, what is it about? And you showed me the cover and it was like, guys are just way smarter than girls. And I was like, get the fuck out. Like, what?
I don't remember.
Get out.
I don't remember that.
I know.
I
but
really
you
need to
just,
find
like,
that book,
were
though.
Huh?
I need to find that
Yeah.
book, though.
It's a great.
We
You
need to
probably
republish
wrote it.
his book.
That's
Pretty sure
right.
that's been burned.
Yeah, it was
Probably.
probably canceled in 2020.
It has since been burned.
That's right. That's right.
So-
But you were just sarcastic, and nobody
Yeah.
understood you.
It's because I didn't have a filter, right? So
Yeah.
I would say things. I mean, this is even today. I mean, like, oh God,
Me too.
some of the things that I say, people are like, how do you get away with saying the things that you do? And I said, it's the delivery, right?
Yeah.
It's the deadpan, like, I'm serious, you're an idiot, kind of like, I'm not doing it for shock value. It just comes
Right.
natural. And people laugh.
It just comes
It
out. And I
just
can't
comes
help it.
natural.
Yeah.
And
Do what?
what'd you say?
What's
Cassie?
that? Oh, I was just saying it just comes
What'd you
natural. I said it just
Yes.
comes
Oh, yeah.
natural.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Being an asshole comes natural too.
Yeah.
but
No,
see,
I
that's-
feel like-
think that's
I feel like-
interpretation.
Yeah, and I feel like when I say like unhinged things, it's like it's not because I'm trying anything. And people are like, "Oh my God, like I can't believe you said that." And I'm like, I honestly see nothing wrong with it. That's my thing. I just can't fathom how somebody would ever be offended by it. Like I have no idea why they'd even be offended. So I don't even understand not to say it. Like there isn't a filter because there's nothing. The filter doesn't work. Like it's like I don't even know what to filter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I got older, I started to. I would still say the things that I did, but I at least understood. Like when they were like, that hurt my feelings. I'm like, I'm sorry, I didn't. Like I was apologetic. It's like I didn't mean for it to come out that way. I'm a little more, I guess, empathetic or sympathetic to people. Like I understand how it can come across. Like when I was growing up, though, it was just the Wild West. Right, like
But
I
you
was just
didn't know.
fired.
Nobody knew. Like you just,
Right.
it was either you get on Ritalin or you raw dog life. Like
Yeah.
that was literally.
Well, and I don't think that's what
it.
I don't think they put Ritalin for autism. I don't think that they give you Ritalin. I think that's more an ADHD thing.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like that, that would
Oh,
have
I
been the
see.
only solution
Yeah,
that
yeah,
they
yeah.
would have come up
Yeah.
with.
Right.
Yeah.
And what we were saying earlier is like, back in the day, like you were either drooling on yourself autistic or you were normal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you were-
there
yeah.
wasn't-
Or they were like, "Ooh, you're quirky."
Yeah.
Yeah, there was no spectrum. It
Mhm.
was like you're either here or you're here. There's nothing
Totally.
in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're institutionalized or fucking you have zero help.
Yeah.
Like-
Yeah.
So,
So like, what about like dating as you got older? Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
yeah. It got a little easier once, and I actually learned what this was called after I was diagnosed because I started researching and understanding. But it was mimicking, right? So a lot of mimicking behaviors, and it was like, oh, okay, girls like it when you blah, right?
Yep.
One time when I was in my mid-20s, it's when I was in Hilton Head. I was struggling to like really open up to women, right? Or even approach them, especially in like a bar situation, right? Which is already kind of complicated, but when like you really don't understand what in the world you're doing, it's even worse, I think.
Yeah.
So I decided one day I was going to go in and I was going to go to a bar. My goal was to get rejected 20 times. It sounds weird, but I wanted to like just try things and just see, like, take on that feeling of rejection and just get used to it, and then just be surprised if it didn't happen, right? So
Right.
I'll never forget this one time. I walk in, there's like 5 dudes in like almost a straight, like a single file line, and there was like this really hot girl at the bar, and she's just like, she's like rapid fire, just shooting these dudes away, right? And so it was the craziest thing watching a line like form. Like I kind of felt bad for the other girls. But so I walk up and as I'm kind of approaching, I'm thinking like, what dumb thing are you going to say? And so I just looked at her and I said, so is this where we get a ticket to come talk to you? And she's like, what? I was like, do you have one of those like now serving? Man 353 at booth, it's stool number 3. And she started laughing, and I was like, okay. And she goes, she starts asking me questions, which I don't think she had done before for the other guys. And then I looked and I said, hey, before we keep going, what did that guy say? Because that did not work, right? Like, I just need to make sure I don't go there. And she's just laughing and laughing. And I'm like, I was trying to get rejected, but in turn was so free.
You're just so charming.
It was just things like that are like that were just weird to me. Like, why did that work? I was just being stupid. And then I'm like, well, maybe girls just like you to be stupid and
just silly and have fun.
Yeah.
Like, I was just telling Braylon the other day, I'm like, she was like, who do you think is so cute? And I said Seth MacFarlane, because I love to laugh, and he's just hilarious. And I think he's kind of cute, but he can sing too. And so Braylon was like, oh my gosh, you like him? I was like, anybody that can make me laugh,
right,
you're already steps ahead.
Yeah.
Okay.
I dated a girl from Chile. I
forgot about her.
Yeah. That one hurt. I was totally into her. Like, she was, oh my God. But when I went over there, I was like, I'm sorry, but where she lived, it looked like Detroit. Okay. And so I could not hold myself back. Like, we're talking like every house was like a different shade of like pink and green and blue. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
And like, it offended her so bad that she was like, I don't want to see you anymore. I'm like, bitch,
you got the ick.
Yeah. I'm like, I am in Santiago, Chile. Like, that is a long way to be like, go back home. So anyway, but anyway, but then, I kind of did some like hit or miss stuff. And one night I was, and I don't have a lot of experience with like
girls.
Yeah. Let's just, that's a great blanket statement there. At least.
Sorry.
No, it's true. It's true. I was trying to think of something a little more finessed, but whatever. But I just remember, she sends me a message on Facebook. Facebook was this app that, back in the day people used to talk on.
Young people used to use it. Now the old people.
Yeah. And so I get this random message from her, and she's like, hey, do you play the piano, right? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, who is this? And she's like, oh, you went to school with my sister. And I'm like, okay. And she says, our piano player just canceled. Like, and we are doing a song for the radio. It was, I think it was 961. I don't know what the radio station was. But she's like, I need someone in like 4 hours to come over here and record this. And I was like, she's like, come down to the studio. It sounded legit. And so I'm going to get to one of the Asperger traits here in a second.
Good.
Okay. So when I get there, it was great. I'm sitting there, I'm playing, and she's sitting next to me, and she's like got her hand in a very distracting motion on my leg. I don't know this girl.
Motion or location?
Well, both, right? Like, she is, and I'm like, I thought you just want, I don't know what's going on right now. So it was like really awkward because I'm trying to I got like the producer guy who's like, yeah, we want it to sound like this. And she's over here like, and I'm like, yo, what? It was very confusing. Right. Anyway, so finish that. Everything's fine. I leave and I'm like, what was that? She sends me a message about a week later and she says, hey, can you come down to my house? Oh, by the way, the song did come out. I heard it. It was good. The piano was amazing. So she sends me a message a week later and she says, hey, can you come down to my house? I'm recording another song for an album. I'd love to, hear what you could put together. And I said, yeah, sure. Why not? So as I'm driving down there, she calls me about 10 minutes before I'm supposed to be there. And she says, hey, can you pick up a bottle of wine? My dad's cooking dinner. And I was like, okay, that's weird. I thought we were, I thought I'm going over there. We're going to play. And I'm like, well, maybe she wants to have a glass of wine, like while she's singing and doing her stuff. She had a really pretty voice. She was a good songwriter. I listened to some of the stuff. Anyway, we get there and, things are just weird. The whole entire, like the dad, like cooking, he wanted me to chop stuff. I've never chopped shit in my life. And I'm like, you're just kind of setting me up for failure here. The mom and her are sitting at the table, and they're already wasted. Like at the table, there's no food yet. They're just sitting there drinking. It was like something out of a horror movie. There's this
Her
creepy
mom was
Christmas.
crazy.
Yeah. But there's like creepy Christmas music playing in the living room because we were doing a Christmas song and all that kind of stuff. So it was during Christmas time, and I'm like, all right, so I'm just gonna sit here and start to drink. So as soon as I start, this is before dinner. She says, "I'm gonna go take a bath," and I'm thinking, maybe you do that before somebody comes over,
you leave,
or
whatever.
after, or like, what did you do to make you need to take a bath right now? That's so weird, right? And so she gets up.
For you, that was weird.
Yeah, even for me, who has no idea like how proper
Norm.
social interactions are supposed to work. Even I'm like, this is fucked up, right? Like this is not right. And so she goes into the back, and her mom looks at me and goes, "You can join her if you want."
Oh.
And I'm like,
Why?
what?
What do I say here?
I'm thinking. I said, no. I think that doesn't sound right. Once again, not sure, but I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah. It's a setup.
Yeah, it's what a weird ass setup for like a piano player to come down and like play on a song, and next thing you know. Anyway, so we're sitting in the living room and we're doing like weird idle chat. All of a sudden, she just walks out into the living room completely topless, okay, with a towel around her, and she just walks through the living room as if no one was there, right? No one says anything. I'm sitting here like, what Twilight Zone am I in, right?
Yeah.
So
mom
then we
would
go
have
to.
She would shit herself.
Oh my God. All right. So I'm going to try to wrap this up because it's so insane. But anyway, we walked downstairs and this was like her room. She had like this like studio kind of thing going on. All the walls were windows. So it was like from the floor to the ceiling, you could see out into like the cul-de-sac, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we go down and her mom and dad come downstairs because they want to hear. And so she starts playing the song on the guitar. She's singing. I start to do my thing. And then she hits like play and she's starting to sing. And her hand is doing that thing again. But her dad is like, they're right here. They're like right. Why are you? I don't understand. Right. So I'm sitting here once again. I've learned this about myself. It's very difficult to play. I cannot control two heads at once, right? So like I have to. Yeah, sorry, but that's just the reality of it. Right. I just can't do it. And so I look over and her parents are gone. Right? They just went upstairs. And
I didn't say bye. Didn't just
freaking vanished, right?
Ooh.
And then, things progressed because at this point I was like, well, I don't even know what I'm doing here anymore. I might as well, get something out of it. And
right.
So we do
How
the
did
thing.
I know that you were just like, might as well.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like a girl, right? Where they're like, well, I'm already fucking here. Kind of thing. Like you conned my ass into getting here. I guess I might as well, right? You better be knowing what you're doing, kind of thing.
That's
right.
Funny.
So what I realized quickly is that she was on, I forgot Klonopin and alcohol. Now, what I did not know. Okay, so after which was a magnificent performance, by the way. Okay, I gave the entire cul-de-sac a show because the lights were on and all the fucking windows, everything is just straight. Like, I'm just like, you know what? Here we go. So we finish up. She goes into the bathroom. She comes back 5 minutes later, and she goes, "So you want to do it?" And I was like, "What?" And
Bitch, where were you?
Yeah, and I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Back into that.
So she gets like irate, and she's like, "If you're not going to do it, I'll find somebody who will." And I'm like, "Yo, I don't know what kind of recharge rate you think a man has, but it ain't 5 minutes. Okay.
Wow.
Right. She had no recollection that had ever happened. I'm like, well, that's
and that
dangerous.
wasn't a red flag to you?
Oh, there were more red flags than the Soviet Union when it came to this
bro,
girl.
You are a
But you have to understand,
I was red flag.
Look, I was not thinking. Okay.
No.
I was
Not with that head.
Not with that head. No. And and like I said, I drove all the way from Canton to Peachtree City. Something is going to, especially after this weirdo situation.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Cassie's got to go.
What?
Yeah, she had since we had to push it back. Cassie was sick, and so we had to push it back, and she had plans that she had for like 2 or 3 weeks before this. So it's just a little.
I tried to get out at 4:30 to be able to go right till 5, but my boss was watching me, so I was late to it. But yeah, I guess I gotta go.
Okay.
But it was. I'm like,
it's not awkward at all. Well,
I know, right? I know. I'm like, well, great to meet you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love your sex stories.
Yeah. It was not. This was not supposed to be like. I was trying
After
to show.
hours with Chris Horn.
Honestly,
yeah,
no. I'm here for it. I'm gonna listen to the rest of it because I'm actually really intrigued now.
Yeah.
I'm definitely invested in it.
Yeah, because now the next part is when Alison met her.
Yeah. Well, I had known her. Well, we'll see you later, Cassie.
Okay. Just text me when you guys are done.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's fine. So anyway, I started to. I had never met anyone like this before, right? Because I didn't have a lot of experience. So, yes, looking back now, quite a red flag. And afterwards, totally red flag. But
well, I don't think I don't think anybody would have been prepared for this girl. Even if you had experiences with anybody else like this, she was just crazy.
Yeah. So after, that night, I was like, okay, I'm not doing this again. And then the dinner with you guys, I forgot how it happened. I think you guys were going to dinner and then I was coming down.
It was our anniversary. We were moving from Virginia back to Georgia, and it was like our anniversary. And so we just, I think it was the day before we got there, maybe. I don't know, but we had like a 3-month-old. And so we all went to dinner, and you came to dinner with her, and she was invited. I mean, it's not like you just brought her, but she was invited. But I don't remember why you got mad. Do you remember why you got mad?
Yeah, so she kept saying weird things.
She did, yeah.
She would
almost
say,
like to try and get you in trouble or something.
Yes, she was trying to be like, oh, Chris is nice, but he's kind of a dick, kind of thing, right? Like,
yeah.
But like in front of my parents, like my family, right?
We were all like,
right, yeah, like it just was inappropriate. Like once again, even I know.
That was inappropriate. So like these are all like learning
experiences for me, right? Because I'm filing these away in my head like, okay, yeah, that's fucked up. And then don't do that. All right. You know? Because that's what this is. It's all about like learning how to mimic, and so I had to like find people that like were really good with women, with situations, with whatever it is that I'm looking for. That's the coder in
you, though, that you're decoding.
Right. I'm literally studying it and being like, okay, how do I copy this?
Yeah.
And how do I avoid these pitfalls? Because it just didn't come naturally to me.
Yeah.
That's kind of the reason for these stories. It's like how it conditions you to like how you're
to figure out something's going on. We need to figure this out.
Right.
Yeah.
So there was more to this, but like ultimately, it kind of fizzled out. She did not enjoy me breaking up with her.
Well, when that dinner, we have to say what happened, because that dinner, she was talking a bunch of shit and everything. And you just like, you were so over it. And I just remember you standing up, you had your credit card, and you stood up and you threw the credit card down. You're like, dinner's on me, I'm out. And you just left, and we're all like, And she was sitting there like,
yeah.
I'm like, this is because of you. Like, why do you look confused?
I have, it takes me a minute to really get to that point.
Yeah.
But she kind of sped run that.
She was
like a pro. Yeah. It was crazy. But so, and then so as I'm, trying to like learn these interactions, I tried, YouTube was fairly new then, but, trying to find different, some of them were stupid, like how to talk to women. And I'm like, okay, it was too basic, right? It was like, oh, you just walk up and, but this kind of came to a head of when I got diagnosed. So around 2019, my wife at the time had been having some issues with her hip, and she went in to get x-rays, and they found a mass on her kidney. And they said, it looks like you have kidney cancer. We're either going to have to remove half or all of your kidney. And so she was just terrified, right? And my reaction was, it's going to be okay. We're going to figure this out. That's all I knew how to do. Yeah. But I was never, I was always like, well, let's try to get another opinion. Like, let's do this, let's do that. So I was standard male problem solving mode.
I don't know if that's standard male. I wonder if you handled it that way because we're so used to dad with he had cancer like 6 times.
That's
and
true.
It's almost like to us, we're like, that's not that big of a deal. Like you'll get
it's like getting a cold for us.
Yeah. Because I remember like when he had cancer, it was just like, oh, he's got this. Right. He's done it 5 other times. Right. Like, yeah. So I don't know. I think maybe we are just desensitized because he had cancer so many times when we were growing up and beat him with like ease. It almost seemed like.
Right.
No, so
that's fair.
I wonder if that's, and you were just like, mom always stayed calm. And so maybe you were just like, okay, well, this is what we need to do. This is what we're going to do. Everything's going to be okay. And
this
is
how you
matter
act.
Of fact.
Right.
Yeah. But it was happening to her. So she's much more emotional. I know I would be.
Right.
So sorry.
Yeah, no. And I just, and you're absolutely right. So her reaction to this was, I was not there for her.
Yeah.
And it wasn't intentional. I wanted to be. It's just
you were there for her in your eyes,
right? But I hadn't learned the way that she needed me to be. Right? I had not found that behavior. I did not. I knew. I went with all I knew. Right? And so we go to the hospital. She's going. The doctor says, "Hey, this is going to be a 4-hour procedure. We don't know if we're going to take all or half of her kidney, depending on how bad this is." So I said, okay. They took her back, and I'm sitting in the waiting room, and he comes back 30 minutes later instead of,
You're like, crap.
I'm like, yeah, this can't be good. Yeah. And he said, okay, so here's the deal. He said, we put her under anesthesia, right? So she's under. And I realized that we didn't have the ultrasound machine here in the room. And he said, so the nurse went down, it's like other side of the hospital. These places are massive. Yeah. And he said, while I was sitting there, he's like, I was looking at these scans and they just didn't really look right. And he said, so while I was waiting, I went down to radiology and I showed these scans to 5 independent, with no context radiologists and said, what do you see here? And he said, all 5 of them said, it's just a cyst. Right? It's not cancer. So wow. He came back out to me and said, look, I don't feel comfortable cutting her kidney out if, you had photos done by a Sony Mavica, it would appear to be.
Right.
One of those floppy disks, back in the early.
You took it with a potato.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, all right. He goes, I think we should just wake her up. I said, yeah, that's probably the next best step.
Yeah.
And so she's waking up and she's kind of like lethargic. And she says, all she said was half or whole or all, half or all. And that's all she could say. Oh. And I said, neither.
She's like, crap.
And she looked at me and she goes, what? I said, neither. I said, it's a long story, but basically you just took a $12,000 nap.
Yeah.
And not the right time to make a joke. I now know that. I thought it was funny.
No, you said, I would have have laughed at that.
Yeah, well, not under anesthesia when you're terrified. Okay. There's a time and a place. Anyway, so she was basically like, look, I don't know what the deal is here, but like, I think you might need to get tested for autism. Now, I took it as that was a slight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably the way it came across may not have.
Yeah. But I said, you know what? Cool. I'm going to do it. So I go down to Emory Autism. I'm 40 years old, right? At the time. Go to Emory Autism. I sit there in the waiting room. I'm watching Mickey Mouse in the Donald Duck chair. And the lady comes out. She's the lady who's over the entire Emory Autism department. And she says, I'm going to do this evaluation myself because no one comes in here at 40. And I said,
do people just not want to know, or they just don't care?
It's new.
It's
new. Like by the time you make it to 40, you pretty much know who you are, right? Like, you know, it's just not normal, right?
Yeah.
Like if this existed in the 90s, yeah, sure. I'm sure I would have been right on the front seat bus on the way to this place, but you know,
poster child type shit.
100%, right? So we're doing this, you know, evaluation. It was like 8 hours long of like therapy and then, you know, the questions or whatever. And so at the end, they were like, yeah, you have Asperger's, and what was it? It was something else. It was autistic phenomes. Still don't know what a phenome is. I think she sounded like she made it up.
I think she was trying to say phenom.
I don't know. But then she goes, oh, and it says here that you're suicidal. And I was like, well, I mean, this was a long 8 hours, right? And she's and I said, all right, you know what? I'm not sad or anything. Like you had me at you know, autistic, but I'm not suicidal. I said, what are you talking about? She says, let me look. And she's looking through and she looks at the question. And she said, oh, I found it. She said, it says sometimes. Now I want you to think about this when I say this, right? And think about you're answering truthfully. Okay. Sometimes I feel that life is not worth living. And I said, yes.
Sometimes it's like, what's the point?
Right.
Well, you don't want to do it.
Right.
But you just think.
I'm still here. Obviously, either I'm a failure.
Either I suck at that too.
Yeah. Like, and I'm not going to admit that if that were the case. And she goes, yeah, well, that flags you as suicidal. I was like, okay, can I change my answer? You know, because I thought I was supposed to be truthful. And I even looked at her and was like, you've never felt that way? And she goes, well, and I said, say no more. Yeah.
So your answer would be yes, too.
Right.
If we're being honest. I thought we were in the nest.
But I'll tell you what. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she, oh my God, it was so weird. But after getting diagnosed, like things got better for a while because I did a lot. You made a comment last time I saw you. You said something about like, you feel like I've become a little more empathetic since, you know, then. And I had done a lot of studying on Asperger's and how what I'm missing, like the empathy, the social cues. I can't read a room to save my life. I've gotten better, right? I still don't care. But point is that like at least I know that some of the things I'm not supposed to say.
What's funny is the things that you don't have, I have. So like you don't have the anxiety, I have that. Like I will lay in bed at night and my brain will go, oh, this will be fun. We're going to think of all the things that you suck at. You ready? Let's go. And we're just going to go like, you're not doing enough homeschool, like the kids, like you're failing with the kids, you're failing all the dogs. There's something wrong with it. Like everything that I've ever done in my life. And I'll just be like, come on.
Really?
Give me a break.
Yeah. My brain goes nothing.
Oh, mine won't stop all night long. And it's why, like, I saw a study the other day that said people with ADHD are, or like on the spectrum or whatever, you're more capable of being addicted to like drugs and stuff. Because for somebody like me who their brain cannot turn off, it is like I have 75 TVs going in my head all the time.
It's like the Matrix.
And I can and when I close my eyes, like at night, my eyes will be closed, but I can feel them going back and forth. It's like I'm watching TV nonstop and I hear stuff nonstop, like it's nonstop chatter.
Really?
And it drives me up the wall and I can't sleep. The only way to turn it off is when like I have like a pain medicine or something. Pain medicine won't make me go to sleep, but it silences my brain so that I can finally take a sleeping pill and then I can go to sleep.
That's a lot of work to sleep.
Oh my God. I take a CBD gummy that is like 7,500 milligrams. It's the strongest, the one that they have in the store.
Jeez, might as well get it intravenously at that point.
Bro,
or take a CBD suppository.
If I stay up too late, I'll see portals. Like the windows will start glowing, and I'm like, "Oh, the gummies turned on me. This is not good."
You have a very specific window of time.
I do. I have to take it right before bed, and then like be perfectly asleep before it hits me, or else I'm just like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, you break open the next dimension.
Oh, it's bad. I'm just gonna look in the next dimension next time, but it has to be better than this one. I think I've jumped.
God, that sucks. You know, it just
yeah. But it's funny because you have all like the decoding and the computers, and my brain does not do those things. So what you don't have, and well, actually you did have the athleticism, you just didn't enjoy it.
Right.
But so I did the athletics. I wasn't very smart. You were a freaking genius. I had to study for every C I got. Like you, so it's so funny that you, and maybe that's why I never thought I had issues, because I did the quote unquote normal things.
Right.
And I could mimic people well enough to oh, you're so funny. I was like, oh, it's funny because that's your personality. I'm just mirroring you, right, so that you feel comfortable with me, because I don't know what the fuck to do.
100%.
Like, I don't know how to act. I'm just going to do what you do because it makes me more comfortable and you more comfortable.
Yeah.
But so I would have never known until you got diagnosed and you were like, yeah, I'm just, when I go to bed, I have to have the sheets like perfectly, where my feet. And I was like, wait, what? Yeah. I was like, that's me too. Like if I can't walk around the concrete in the house. If I get crumbs on my feet, I'll lose my mind. Yeah. I have to wear socks.
So you have a sensitivity to touch. Yes.
I have a lot of like texture sensitivities that have gotten worse as I've gotten older. I didn't have any of these symptoms except for being too sensitive. See, you didn't have sensitivity. No. And I am like, I can feel what people are feeling without even knowing the person. Wow. And I freaking hate it.
That would, yeah. That'd be rough.
Like I can just see somebody on TV and like something that they've gone through, and immediately I feel it like I'm going through it. Like I know how I would feel if that was happening to me. Wow. And while it's a good empathetic thing, so you can truly like, I can really say like, I know how you feel. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but it sucks. I hate it. I feel too much.
Yeah. I still to this day, don't know like really what love is.
Aww.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not like a sad, I mean, okay, I guess when you say it out loud. Say it out loud.
You do know what love is because you have kids.
I have kids, and I love my kids. When I say love, I mean more of like romantic love, I think.
Yeah.
Not like, I would take a bullet. Like I would take a bullet for my kids, right? For my ex, I'd be like, well, was it going to kill her? Right. Like, I mean, if we're talking like are we nicking an arm kind of thing? Like,
could we sue and get some money?
Right. Like, I'd ask questions. I'd ask questions is all I'm saying.
Is she going to limp away or whatever?
Like, can she walk it off? Like, no, I'm kidding.
I know.
But like, it's difficult because, throughout growing up, like any sort of like romantic encounter always felt like infatuation. Did not feel like it never made it to love or whatever. And yes, when I thought about like, well, how do I feel if that person were not in my life anymore? And I'm like, well, I would miss them.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know at what point does it, like, I never had that, like, just whatever people describe as that like overwhelming feeling.
You never had that.
Never.
Yeah.
It's not something you can mimic.
No.
It is, it sucks, but like there are way worse problems to have. You know?
I think you will find that when you find somebody who just understands you or attempts to understand you. Like, I think until I met Andy, there was nobody that understood. And then guys would even tell me that, like, I don't get you. And I was like, perfect. That's where I want you. I thought I was doing it on purpose. I was just confusing the hell out of them because I was all over the place. But they were just like, I don't know. You're so sarcastic. I don't know how to take you. And I'm like, cool. That's where I want you because I don't want you to know anything about me. But then Andy, like, he knows all my weird that have gotten way worse over time.
Right.
Like, so, like, I wasn't like this when we got married. And he is just like, I know you need a break. Why don't you go take a bath? I'm going to take the kids here. I know you need this. I know you're overwhelmed or they've touched you too much. And now you just need a moment to, like, by the end of the day, don't talk to me. Don't touch me. I just need to sit.
Yeah. You definitely lucked out with him.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
I had already made up my mind that I was never getting married because I was like, there's nobody that could put up with me.
Yeah.
I'm a lot to deal with.
Well, and it'd be reciprocated, right? Like, it's a matter of them dealing with you. You're already not short.
Enjoying that person, yeah.
I mean, you're already not short, right? So you're, if you want a tall guy, you gotta, go with,
I was fine with never getting married. I was like, I had already made that decision. I was like, because I'd gone through the pros and cons. And I was like, is he going to be shorter than me? Hell no.
Right.
I'll be single.
You'd be like patting him on the head and stuff. Like, that's not hot.
No, I need a man. I don't need like a little child that I'm going to break.
Right. Yeah.
So, I totally lucked out. I don't know. I didn't deserve him because he was he's perfect. I mean, you love him. He's like the guy.
I believe you did deserve him, actually.
I don't know.
Because while we do talk a lot about how good Andy is, like, the fuck you laughing for?
It's true. He's amazing. Like, it's just, I was telling somebody the other day, like, if you don't like me, I get it. If you don't like Andy, the fuck? Something's wrong with you.
No, but like you maybe it's because we have a very similar personality, right? But you turned out to be a really good person too.
Aww.
So to say that you
heard it first here, guys. He loves me. That's what I heard.
You are correct.
Oh, that was sweet.
No, I mean, it's seriously like it's you deserve each other. So it's not a one-way thing. He lucked out.
And he's like, screw you.
No, man, he lucked out too because you know what? I've seen the dating world out here, and I'm talking to a girl right now who's super sweet, and I think I've lucked out.
Aww,
and
good.
Because it's a hard world out here. Like there's a lot of it's just gone downhill. And
you know what I heard the other day? I saw a TikTok and the girl was like, yeah, I have herpes, but like everybody has herpes. Is it really that big a deal? I was like, oh my gosh, yes, it is a big deal.
No, not everyone has herpes. Thank you.
Right.
Like, don't try to make that a thing on TikTok where it's like, I got herpes.
Stop normalizing things that shouldn't be normalized.
Yeah.
It's okay to have like some self-respect.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the girl who did the 1,000 guys in one day.
Oh yeah. Her parents are proud. Could you imagine, Mom? Could you imagine?
Bro, I can't imagine being in the waiting room. Well, I'm 6'43".
Can you? What kind of dude is just like, no, yeah, number 1,000 here?
Oh, you need me ready to go when I go in there? Okay, hold on a second. I know there's 300 other guys in here, but I'm gonna just okay.
Whoever had ticket 69 was like, yep. Winning.
Like, it's definitely a situation like if you're not first, you're last because it doesn't matter. Once
it's like a hot dog down a hallway.
Oh, got a slippery. Oh God,
this is so disgusting.
Yeah,
that's bad.
No.
But yeah. Mom would just be sending Bible verses.
Oh yeah, no. I think even that point she'd be like, you know what? It's not going to happen.
You're embarrassing the family.
Yeah.
You know what? I'll give her that one.
You're embarrassing God at this point. Like, don't even. He's like, no. This is why I burned. This is why the flood happened.
Yeah.
Because of.
Well, so that gets me to the flood. No. All like when I try and go to sleep and I've waited too long and all the noise in my head, it's always like, why are we here? Why were we created? What's the freaking point? Why we didn't ask to be here. We're on a flipping rock flying through space and I got to pay to live here and I didn't even ask to come here. My brain does that. And I'm just like, Alison, stop. You can't answer any of these questions. What are you doing?
Yeah. I hate that for you because I sleep like a baby.
Yeah, you sleep like a dad. That's nice.
Yeah, I start snoring in 16 seconds. Let's see.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna kind of wrap this up to how it is today. So 44 years later, it's easier for me now because like I will tell girls up front and say, here's the deal, like. Eye contact is a huge thing for me. I never realized that how much I stared off into space when I was talking to someone.
I do it too. I've noticed that if I'm looking in your eyes too long, I'm like, oh shoot, right. And I get real uncomfortable and I'll just turn away. Yeah.
And so, I would just, even the one I'm talking to right now, I just was like, here's the story, so if you see me staring at something or whatever, like, this is what it is. And
that's how I do too.
Yeah. It just makes it easier because they're like, oh, he's like clinically fucked up. Cool. Right. It's not him just not knowing what to do. So it does kind of mask that a little bit. Right.
Well, but that was helpful because I think for the longest time, people in your family, not me, I was always
100% always on my side.
Your advocate.
Yes.
But I think they just thought he doesn't care. And I remember people would say, well, he just doesn't care about us, like blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that's not true. He does. You just don't understand how he's able to, like, the way he shows that he cares is not how everybody else shows that they care.
Right.
And I was like, you just have to step back and go, he just thinks differently. Like you might, and they're like, well, he didn't call on Christmas. I go, he has his kids and it's Christmas there too. And he's got a lot going on. He knows that it's Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that he has a family, but this doesn't occur that he needs to call you because he just assumes that it's Christmas and he's thinking of you. Like it was just a lot on your plate.
Right.
And it was like, I'm trying to keep my head above water and that one's going to have to stay for a while.
Yeah. And that's true. Like there's only so much that I can process at one given time. And it's like, you know what? Just call me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like
and that is what has helped me with being a parent. Because Jackson is a lot like you too, and me. Now that I'm learning,
right.
But a few years ago, I would be talking to him and he wouldn't look at me, and I was like, I need you to look at me because I need to know that you're paying attention. So one day he was like, I am, and I was like, then what did I say? And he repeated it word for word. It wasn't, and I was like, you know what? Perfect.
Right.
So fine. You don't have to look at me. It made him uncomfortable to look at me.
Yeah.
And I said, do I make you uncomfortable when you look at me? He goes, yeah. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So we were, because of you, because watching you and trying to help explain to other people about how you think, I was tipped off because he had some of the same things. And I was like, okay, well, I have these issues too, apparently. He has made a complete 180.
Really?
Like he used to have anger issues. He was lazy. He would just try not to do his work or whatever. And I think now it wasn't laziness. It was so much he felt, whether it was like reading 7 pages. Well, that 7 pages seems so daunting. It was like, I don't even know where to start. I can't start because it's just so much. But I was able to give him tools and I had to do a lot of research. Tools to help him. First, let's handle the anger. It's a normal emotion. It's okay to feel that way. Don't feel bad for being angry. We have to learn how to let it out appropriately.
Right.
And he's since used all those things, but you didn't have that growing up. Mom didn't have that knowledge growing up. I mean, Google's very nice now that I can just type in, hey, what can I do for my child? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
She didn't have that.
Yeah.
So it did suck for her. It sucked for us too, but it was just like,
well, it has made me be a different parent too. So I'll give you one more small story about my daughter. We get an email from her teacher, and it was basically like she's she's not paying attention, or it was that she takes like 10 times longer to do something that it takes other kids, right? And so I was like, okay, well, what's her grades? It's like all 90s. I'm like, well, I never saw a 90, so she's already doing better than
Not
me.
unless you changed your grade.
Yeah, well, we're, statute of limitations.
That's right. I'm sure the statute of limitations has run
probably. And so, her mother would say like, well, you need to speed things up. Like, this is what needs to happen. And she's very analytical about it, right? Like, this is what the teacher is saying. This is what you need to do it.
Very matter of fact.
Very matter of fact. And, she came over, my daughter came over to my house, and she's like, I just don't know what's going on. I said, well, let's just take it one step at a time. So let me get this straight. So, you're going to take a test. They bring the paper to you, you put it on the desk, and, what's the first thing that goes through your mind? And she goes, oh no, when it's on paper, I'm totally fine. And she's like, I'll breeze right through it. And I said, oh, okay. Well, what are you talking about? She's like, it's when it's on the computer. And I said, let me guess, it's a laptop? She's like, yeah. I said, little print? Yeah. White background? Yeah. How'd you know? Just wild guess. And I said, do you notice, is it easier if the questions are not as wordy, right? Like, is it like one or two sentences? Are you able to do it? And she says, yeah, like when it's one or two sentences, I'm fine. But it's when it's like a paragraph.
When they try and confuse you.
She said, but I can do it fine on paper. And I said, okay, so you're having it could be glare issues. It could be lighting. And she was struggling really hard with homework, like getting her homework done. And I said, listen, when I'm writing code, you probably can't tell right now, but I have multicolored lights in my house. I have a very specific music that I listen to. I have specific lighting, temperature, everything. Everything has to be perfect, or I do not get into the zone. It is like pulling teeth to do something. I said, you need to find a spot in the house where you can zone out, listen to whatever music. Now, mine is trance. She listens to heavy metal. Okay.
That's awesome.
She loves baby metal. I don't know if you know who baby metal is.
No.
Oh man, she got the sweatshirt and everything. She'll just listen to this. It's in Japanese. Okay. So you can't even understand it.
His daughter speaks fluent Korean.
She's still going to Korean
and Chris
school.
Speaks fluent Russian?
I don't speak fluent Russian. But the point is that so she found it's in the little guest room in a house, and she says at 4:00 is when the sun comes in perfectly, where I don't have to have the light turned on, and I can turn my music on, and I can get all my homework done, and it's not hard to do. And I kind of treat her like she has something, she might not, but a lot of her complaints sound very much like complaints I had when I was a kid. And now, but now I have control over it. Now I can experiment, and I can do that.
Yeah.
Well, as a kid, you don't think of I need to experiment with my brain.
Yeah. And you wouldn't even know what to experiment.
Right. So, instead of just being like, no, you got to do this, let's see if we can break it down a little bit. Like, tell me how you feel, which honestly, not words I'd really spoken before I was, I couldn't care less about feelings. Right. But I'm like,
but you know how you felt.
Yeah.
And so that is I think that's what you're
frustration, just 100% frustration.
Yeah. And so you're trying to help her avoid that.
Right. And so walk me through, at what point does it become overwhelming? What's going through your mind when you're here? And so it makes her think a little bit more. So it's like, okay, next time, tell me, when things become so because she'll get so overwhelmed. She'll just go into her room and she'll just, isolate, and, her mom will be like, just let her go. And I'm like, I understand that you need your space, but understanding what's causing it, especially if it's happening over and over and over again, maybe help a sister out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But she doesn't have a clue how to help her.
That's true.
This is you. And unluckily, you have this issue or situation or whatever you have, but you're able to help her now. And so now you're turning what was such a struggle for you and you've made such strides to better yourself and your life and your family and everything else. And now you're able to help your kid with something that's probably healing younger you that needed somebody to do this for you.
That's fair. Yeah.
And so, you know, I noticed that a lot of times when I do something for the kids that I am like, this didn't happen for me for one reason or another. And it's always like when I do it, the little person in me is like, I'm doing it for her too. But I get to live and see my kids have that. And so it kind of fulfills that in me too, that they don't have to struggle like I did. I protected them from that. Or I didn't keep them away.
Right.
I gave them tools, but it makes me feel like everything I've gone through was not for nothing.
Right. And, you know, she would come over and say, she's like, I feel like my friends are smarter than me. And so her mom,
ain't nobody's smarter than that girl.
well, her mom would say, that's not true.
No, yeah.
And I said, my response to her was, yeah, probably.
Yeah, there's tons of people.
I said, there, you're going to find people smarter than you. You're going to find people dumber than you. You're going to find people prettier than you. You're going to hate it.
Yep.
You're going to find people that are uglier than you. I said, this is just how the world works, you know?
Yep.
And she's like, and I said, well, what make, you know, she's talking about one of her Asian friends. And I said, I know her. And I know that when she gets home from school, she does 2 hours on the piano. She does an hour and a half with a math tutor. She is, then she has no time for anything.
Yeah.
I said, you want to do that? And she says, no. I said, then you need to let her have it.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, if you're not going to put in the
effort. If you're not willing to do what she's doing, then don't be. But honestly, she probably wouldn't have to do all the things that girl is doing.
Well, no.
I believe that your daughter is smarter than anybody in the world.
She is. She's very smart, and she's very like old for her age.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, she's still a little girl, but you know, all I want to say this is, it's very important, in my opinion, to remember that our kids are just little humans, and they are trying to figure out the world. And
they're having these big feelings just like the adults are.
Absolutely. Just because we have grown and we can handle more doesn't mean that our problems are any less important than theirs.
100%.
You know, when I was a teenager, and then those problems when I was 20 versus 30, like, you just learn how to deal more. And, you know, it's hard not to have a knee-jerk reaction of like, that's silly. Right. But in their world, that is the most important thing at that very moment. And I think that's hard to remember as parents sometimes, especially when you're dealing with, you know, you're stressed out, you know, whether it's work, whether it's just being around the kids all day, you just forget that, like, you know, man,
they're just trying to live too.
Yeah. They're having to deal with their own stresses and the stress of you, right?
Yeah.
As a parent.
Yeah.
And it's just hard, you know, but
it's really helped a lot learning about you, which in turn learning about me, which in turn learning about the kids.
Right. And
I'll like even pick up little things on two of them, not only on one of them doesn't have anything so far, but on two of them, I'm like, ooh, that is something I used to do, or I do that now, or some of it could just be that they hang around me all the time and that's just what they see me do. So maybe that's why they like to, I don't know, but it's been eye-opening and funny, and also kind of like, oh, I'm really fucked up.
Well, it's very interesting, right? Like, especially if you go down the YouTube rabbit holes of, like, you know, these professors, and they're talking about like how it manifests itself in teenagers, how it does boys versus girls, and all this kind of stuff. It's really, you're like, oh, that's me. That's me. You know,
and I see that a lot lately. I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's me. Shit, that's me too. That one's me. How is anybody living with me?
Right. Yeah. But it also, the more you're aware of it, the more you can be like, oh, okay, that's how I am. So I need to compensate, right?
Yeah.
If I'm having trouble emotionally, you know, then I have to kind of go a little over the top. You have to swing the pendulum a little bit so that it kind of lines back up, you know?
Which is funny because we know that it's not lining up, because we pick up on whatever mimicking that we're doing. We're like, okay, we're not in there yet. Now we're there.
Yep. Yeah, we got to turn the volume up more.
That's right. Their volume's higher. We got to go higher.
Right. But
what's the funniest thing that you attribute to Asperger's, ADHD, autism, whatever. What's the funniest thing that you do? Like quirk.
It's usually at work.
Okay.
I say like the most inappropriate things in front of groups of people that I mean, I can give you an example today. Literally today, I'm on a meeting. There's 14 people on there, and it's a very professional thing. And one of the guys that works under me, he comes up and he says, this project, I forgot what he called it. He says, we're now calling it TGM or something like that. And like and I said, that sounds GAY.
No.
And it just came out, right? And it's dead silence, which for some reason I love. Like
the shock and awe.
Just the awkward.
Yes.
Like there's a simultaneous of me going, you should not have said that, along with the but this is kind of fun, right?
Yeah, but watch what happens.
Right. And my boss goes, Chris, you can't say that. And I said, I didn't. I spelled it. And he said, look, I understand that Trump's back in office now, so And I said, yeah, man, you didn't hear we're back to 2 genders. This is on like a professional call, right? And they're like, we can't contain him, right? Like we just need to stop that. So they're just like, and they'll do that. They'll just immediately be like, abort. Yeah, like he will not stop. So that's, I mean, people always ask me like, how do you get away with the things that you say? And I said, because people can't stop laughing.
Right. You disarm them
to get mad, right? Like, and so they're like, if I said that, I would be, I'd be fired. And I'm like, well, yeah, because you probably wouldn't say it.
You're not going to be funny when you say
right?
it.
Yeah, people got to be laughing and be like, okay, you can't do that.
Yeah, ha.
Yeah, but I would do this throughout my whole career. Have always just fired something out, and then been like, whoa. Let's
see how that one lands.
Let's see what happens. Here we go. Waiting for the fuse to light, and
I do that, but I do it just to see the shock and awe.
Oh, because it's fun.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Like I'll hear it before I say it, and I'm like, no, we're going to say it. I don't even care, and it'll just
right.
And I'll say it, and I'll just be like,
yeah, right. Absolutely. I mean that is just because you're just at that point you're just toying with people.
Oh yeah.
Right. But yeah,
nobody takes me serious anyway, so I might as well just say the things that everyone else is thinking, but no one's saying, and I'll say it in a joking way, so you don't get offended. Don't worry.
Well, I would say another thing is like I don't really have much shame. From this. There's other.
It is what it is.
There's like other incidents. Like, do you have no shame? I'm like, I don't know what that would feel like. Like that means I did something wrong, and then I'm afraid I don't like it or something.
I can't. I don't choose. We didn't choose to have these superpowers.
Right.
And that's how I choose to look at it. Is like I'm just gonna turn it into a superpower. Like yes, it does have some things that like it's a struggle sometimes.
Sure.
But for the most part, I feel like because my brain is not like everybody else's, that is what sets me apart and makes me good at acting or good at talking to my kids or giving advice to people or just whatever, because I study people all day long watching them.
Yeah. So you're good at acting. I'm sure you're good at like public speaking, right?
Yeah.
You probably have a lot of anxiety before you get up there, but as soon as you're there, it's like performance mode. Performance mode comes on.
It's a different person. It's almost an alter ego.
You're acting. You're literally acting.
I'm acting.
Right.
And I think because I've acted my whole life, whether I was acting like I liked this person, whether I was pretending I wanted to play softball, whatever it was, I was always acting for somebody. Nobody actually knew the real me.
Right.
You were just entertained by the person you liked, but none of them were me. I am at home alone watching TV, not talking to anybody.
Right.
I realize I'm more of an ambivert. Have you ever heard of that? An ambivert? It is an introvert and an extrovert mixed together. So like I can turn on my extrovertness. I can turn it on. I can turn it high up for acting, for if I'm at a party, if I'm hanging out with people. but I am very much an introvert, and I just want to sit at home. And that apparently is an ambivert.
Well, and when you're done, like when you get off
Uh-huh.
stage or whatever, do you feel like this
crash?
like just this wave that just is crippling?
Yeah.
You're just like,
and for
okay.
3 days, I'm like, can't talk to anybody.
Yeah. No, it's the same way. Like it's the mimicking, right? So, you know, when you're performing, whether it's acting or just meeting someone sometimes, right? Like I feel like when I'm meeting anyone, especially like a girl, like I feel like I am putting on the Chris show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Because if you talk to me normally, you're going to be like,
goodbye.
It's been real.
Yeah.
You know?
That was weird.
Yeah. So you have to kind of work into that, you know?
Yeah.
And then after a while, then, you know, you just be normal. But I mean, even this right now, I mean, we're doing the exact same thing, right? Like,
For sure.
This is, you know, it is what it is. So,
yeah.
But no, this was fun. You know, I actually forgot we were recording.
Well, good. I'm glad you had fun. It's always good talking to you, though. We always have a good time. So, well, thank you for coming.
Of course. I was happy to be a part of it.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for episode 7.
Nice. All right.
All right.